We are live from the Dolce Vita Cafe. Let me just take a minute to organize my notes. If you're joining me live, if you're on your computer to the right of the, well, I don't know which direction that will be, to the right of the picture, you will see a chat box, so you can ask me any questions there, or you can just say hello, tell me where you're from. And if you are on your phone, I believe you'll see the chat box right below the video. And then if you're watching this on the replay, the chat disappears and then the comment section opens. So you can always ask me questions in the comment section and I will address them on next week's show. So let me take a sip of water. And we will begin. So let me just adjust my camera a little bit here. Is that better? Okay, let me bring up my notes. I want to talk to you, update you on the challenge that I'm doing. So if you didn't join me, my hair's a little frizzy today. Oh, the wonders of going live. If you didn't join me last week and you want to know what I'm talking about, on my Facebook group, I am doing a Mediterranean diet challenge. So every single day in January, well, starting the 2nd to the end of January, I am just going into the group, and some days I'm going live, some days I'm going in and putting some studies that I found or some articles that I found that are interesting about the Mediterranean diet. I'm putting recipes in there. I'm just telling you what I'm doing every day. So what I'm eating, what kind of exercise I'm doing, what other kind of Mediterranean lifestyle things that I'm doing for that day. And I'm hoping that people are joining me there and that they're enjoying it. Because a lot of times people don't know how to get started on a Mediterranean diet. So the very first day of that challenge, if you want to follow along, you'd have to join my Facebook group. So that is, I'll put a link down in the comments in the description of this video underneath to the group if you want to play along. But on the very first day, I went live and I told people some really simple ways to get started on the Mediterranean diet. So if you're kind of at a loss and you've heard about the Mediterranean diet, you're interested in it, maybe your doctor's recommended it, and you don't know how to start, there's some really good ways. Good morning, Donna from Maestro's Dream Cafe. Thank you, Maestro. Thank you for joining me live today. So I wanted to give you an update on the challenge. So today is the 7th day of the challenge. And I've lost 2 pounds. I'm really not trying to starve myself or do any of those kind of things because the Mediterranean diet's not really a diet the way we think of diets in the United States. So we're not doing any kind of starvation event. We're not kind of cutting out carbs or cutting out food groups or anything like that. I'm really just trying to eat the way that people do in the Mediterranean. So I'm trying to eat a lot of vegetables. I've really cut back on my meat consumption. I don't eat a lot of meat anyway, but I'm trying not to snack at night and things like that. Kind of the bad habits that I fell into while we were in lockdown from the pandemic. And even it's continued on to this last year because we're sort of not completely out of the pandemic. Like, I don't know if we ever will be. It just seems like it goes on forever. But a lot of things have opened up again, but I'm still just stuck in my stay-at-home ways. My gym had closed for a long time, and now I'm back at the gym again. So I'm just trying to get back to living again and trying to get back to normal. But I'm trying to get back to this Mediterranean way of living that is just so fulfilling. So I wanted to go through with you some things about the Mediterranean diet. My whole channel here is devoted to Mediterranean diet style recipes, but I have, if you don't know me yet, I am the author of this cookbook, The Big Book of Mediterranean Diet Cooking. And in the front pages of this, in the first 2 chapters of this book, is all about the Mediterranean diet and how to shop and how to meal plan and things like that. Now, you don't have to buy this book if you don't want to, but it's a really good resource, if I do say so myself, for the Mediterranean diet. So I just wanted to quickly go over some of the categories of food that we eat on the Mediterranean diet. So the biggest thing that we do is that we eat a lot of vegetables. So fresh vegetables that are in season, locally grown if you can. Now this time of year in January, there's not a lot of produce available in the stores, but there are different kinds of vegetables. There are root if I can say it, root vegetables. So different kind of vegetables than you would find in the summertime. So in the summertime, it's really fun and easy to follow a Mediterranean diet because there's lots of fruits and there's lots of fresh vegetables. It's just different kinds of foods that we need that are available to us at this time of year. So there's lots of citrus fruits available, and then lots of roots, vegetables, and things like that. So things that are comforting and filling for the cold weather days. Another category is beans and legumes. So last night I made a whole chicken, and I made on the side a lentil salad, a warm lentil salad, which I really love. Maestro said I found turnip greens. Oop, that disappeared before I saw it. Let me see. I found turnip greens. Say goodbye to kale. You must have read my article. I have an article that I wrote a while ago called 10 Greens to Eat Instead of Kale, because I'm really not a fan of kale. But kale is so plentiful in the supermarket all the time. So if you do love kale, there's nothing against kale. It's just not my particular favorite. But turnip greens, like you said, sometimes you'll see them called turnip tops in the store. They're just so good. And they're really inexpensive. It's a really inexpensive way to eat when you buy a lot of vegetables. But beans and legumes are another category. So that includes any type of bean. You know, black beans, cannellini beans, pinto beans, black-eyed peas. Peas in general are legumes. Actually, peanuts are legumes too, but we usually keep them in the nut category. And lentils, they're so versatile. You can make lentil soup. You can make a lentil salad. I made a warm lentil salad last night, as I said. I'll put in the description the recipe for the warm lentil salad. You can find it on this channel. The next category is whole grains. So instead of buying supermarket breads and white bread and stuff, I grew up eating white bread and I really love white bread. But there are healthier breads out there. So whole grains, look for multi-grain breads or breads that have seeds on them and things like that. Like I find a lot of interesting breads at Whole Foods if you have a Whole Foods near you. But if you don't have a Whole Foods near you, or you're not really seeing anything all that interesting in the supermarket, like I would suggest going to the bakery section of your supermarket and looking for bread, or maybe go to a local bakery. I have an Italian bakery near me that makes really wonderful bread, and it's a lot of times it's baguettes or it's rolls or things, so it's sort of white bread, but it's made with very few ingredients. So if you're in the supermarket and just go in the bread aisle and just pick up a random loaf of bread and look at the ingredients on the package, you'll probably see 27 different ingredients. Bread does not have to be that complicated. Bread should be flour, water, yeast, maybe a pinch of salt, depending what kind of bread you're making. So bread should be really simple. And I know people love bread and it's a comfort food, but just try to go buy it at the bakery instead of getting it at the supermarket. Another category is fish and shellfish. So try to add fish and shellfish to your diet in place of meat. So that could be as simple as having some smoked salmon for breakfast instead of bacon. Or I love tuna salad. I love to make tuna salad sandwiches. So instead of having maybe a sandwich of deli meats or something that you would normally eat, like cheeses and meats and things, try substituting maybe tuna salad or a salmon salad. Or try to make, the other day I made shrimp scampi with orzo for dinner. And shrimp is a really familiar shellfish. So a lot of people order shrimp when they're out. So shrimp is a familiar fish. You may not have heard of every fish, and you might be a little intimidated by buying a fillet or something like that. But shrimp is really easy. They cook up in like 3 to 4 minutes. So just try to build your meals around vegetables and then adding other different kinds of protein sources like beans or fish or shellfish. Another category is nuts and seeds. So if you're looking for a snack during the day, maybe a little handful of nuts, like maybe not more than that fits in the palm of your hand. You don't want to eat too many things. But walnuts and pecans and almonds and Brazil nuts and any kind of nut that you can find. I know some people are allergic to peanuts, but if you can't eat nuts, maybe you can try seeds like sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds or chia seeds. Flax seeds are really good, but you have to grind them up. And I'm going to take a sip of water. Excuse me. And also, you don't have to be completely meatless on the Mediterranean diet, but people in the Mediterranean only eat red meat maybe 2 times a month, something like that. And I know that sounds a little scary to people in the United States who are used to building all of our meals around meat. But when you do eat meat, you're not I'm not saying you have to be a vegetarian, but try to make it a small portion and then fill the rest of your plate with vegetables or beans or something like that. So maybe 3 to 4 ounces of meat, and poultry maybe once a week, maybe twice a week if you want to. And low-fat dairy, Greek yogurt, I've really gotten into getting away from cow's milk and having things with almond milk or oat milk. When I go to a coffee bar now, sometimes I'll order things with almond milk or oat milk instead of whole milk. Or a lot of times I go for non-fat milk in a latte or something, those kind of cafe drinks like that. Fruit is also important on the Mediterranean diet, so keep fruit on your table. So if you are looking for a snack, you have something readily available and you're not looking around for what am I going to eat. You can pick up maybe at this time of year, lots of citrus fruits are around. So I have a bag of clementines right now on my kitchen table. I keep bananas around. They're not something that we grow in the United States. They're tropical, so they're usually available all year round in the supermarket. If you keep fruit around like that, you're more likely to grab something like that when you want a sweetie. Sometimes at night, bananas can be really satisfying because they're very creamy and they kind of fill a pleasure center when you're looking for something sweet and creamy. And then last but not least, on the Mediterranean diet, you can have a little red wine. So you don't want to drink maybe a whole bottle of red wine, but maybe a glass of red wine with your meal. People in the Mediterranean drink wine with their meals very often. They just don't drink a lot of red wine at one time. Excuse me. So those are the basic categories of how to follow a Mediterranean diet. I'll put a link down below to how you can join my Facebook group. It's a private group, so you'd have to request access. I like to keep it private, so when we're in there, we can talk about things when nobody from the outside the group can see what we're talking about. But I can just let you in if I see that you want to join. And I want to encourage you to have fun with it. If you're sometimes we think of dieting and things as a chore, but like I said, a Mediterranean diet is a lifestyle change. It's not really a diet the way we think of diets. So try to think about how you can make it fun. A lot of people, I was just reading an article from, I don't remember who it was from, but it was about the number one thing, the most important thing to do when you're trying to diet. And it was like the most important thing, you see this headline like, oh, click me. It's the one thing that you can do to lose weight. And I was surprised that it said cooking at home was the answer. So a lot of people don't really like to cook, or they feel like they don't have time to cook, or they're afraid to experiment with cooking. It really is important to cook at home because then you can control your portion sizes and you can control the ingredients in your food. It's the only way to really know what you're eating, because when you go out to a restaurant, they're going to add all kinds of things to make it delicious and luscious, and they're going to give you huge portion sizes. And that doesn't mean you can never go out to eat, but you have to learn how to read a menu and look for the most appropriate thing that would be fit in with your Mediterranean diet, and maybe not eat the whole thing. Maybe take some of it home and use it as leftovers. So any chore that you're doing in your life, think about, how can I make this more fun? How can I make cooking fun? Maybe if you have kids, you can divide up the chores and say, okay, you're going to toss the salad and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and make it fun. Maybe put on some music, and anything in life can be fun. Any chore can be fun. And I think of the movie Mary Poppins, when the kids don't want to clean up the playroom and she sings that song, "A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down." And she says, any job that must be done can have an element of fun. It's something, I'm paraphrasing, but you know what I mean. I mean, anything can be fun. It's all about how you think about it and the attitude that you go in with something. So try to have fun with this. Excuse me. So what else do I have? I'm looking at my notes. I was going to mention, if you're following me along on the challenge, I am posting in the Facebook group, but I'm also posting on my Instagram stories. So if you want to just, I'm at Donna DeRosa on Instagram stories. And you may notice that a lot of times I only eat 2 meals a day. Excuse me. I'm not a big breakfast person. And when I get up in the morning, I usually just want to have coffee. And sometimes I'll actually have coffee and maybe a cookie or a little sweetie, or maybe just a piece of bread, or sometimes I just have coffee. And a lot of times people in Europe, that's what they do for breakfast. In Italy, especially in France, they might have a coffee and maybe a little something, and then they run out the door. I don't believe in the old adage that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I think that we all have different schedules, we all have different lifestyles, and I think the most important meal of the day is the one that's the most important to you. So to me, breakfast just isn't that important. I'm not really that hungry when I get up in the morning, and I usually wait and I don't eat until a little bit later. So I might have lunch, and sometimes I do eat breakfast, especially on the weekend, maybe. But most of the time during the week, I just have coffee. And then, so I'll eat lunch and then I'll eat dinner. And then I might have a snack at some point. So I just want you to, you don't have to follow exactly what I do. I want you to build your Mediterranean lifestyle. Lunch is the center of my day. Yes, Maestro. See? I think in Europe, a lot of people, lunch is the big meal of the day. Like in countries like Spain, or maybe even Greece, lunch is the big meal of the day, and then they eat something smaller for dinner. So it's a good, healthy way to live because if you're eating your big meal at lunch, you have a lot of time to then burn it off and things like that throughout the day. So I just wanted to encourage you to do this in however way it fits into your lifestyle. You have to think about the lifestyle that you want first and then build that around it. And the Mediterranean diet is adaptable to anything. And it's not the kind of, it's not like you have to eat one way. And all of the countries that surround the Mediterranean, and there are a lot of them, it's not just Greece. Everyone thinks the Mediterranean diet means you have to eat a Greek salad. I usually eat mostly Italian when I follow a Mediterranean diet, but there's so many countries that surround the Mediterranean. And actually, there's a map in my cookbook that shows all the countries around the Mediterranean Sea. They all do the Mediterranean diet in their own way. So you're not going to get bored with the way they eat on the Mediterranean diet. So it doesn't mean that you have to eat one certain way. Sometimes you can do Italian, sometimes you can do Greek, you can do French, you can do Spanish, you can have tapas. What's more fun than having a bunch of tapas sometimes? So that's my cheerleader thing for you today. And one other tip I have for you is to think about in advance what you're going to eat. So if you get home from work late, like I used to work really late when I used to live in California, and I'd get home and be like, oh God, what am I going to eat? And then I would make a poor choice because I would be tired and I didn't have anything ready in the house. So if you do a little meal planning and some meal prep, you're more likely to have a healthier dinner so that you can come home and you have an idea of what you're going to do. And that could be as easy as having leftovers, and you know that you have leftovers in the fridge that all you have to do is heat up. Or you can have pre-chopped your vegetables and you can make a little quick stir fry or something like that, or a sheet pan of vegetables and a piece of fish. You can have dinner on the table in 20 minutes. So just a little advanced planning and some meal prep. I wanted to talk about the reason that I wanted to come back with my live show like this again is because I just wanted to talk to you. I don't want to always be pushing recipes at you. Like I said, I don't want you always to feel like you have to eat what I'm eating. You have to make this lifestyle change that adapts to your life. And I wanted to talk about other things on this channel. Like last week, I told you about a book I was reading. There are a lot of things that contribute to a Mediterranean lifestyle. It's not just about food. It's about being more active. It's about being more social. And I like to talk about things that are lifestyle related, like beauty and maybe your environment or your goals and product planning. If you see any of my webinars that I've done that I've posted on my channel, a lot of them are goal oriented. And so I just wanted to let you know that if you have any topics that you want to be coached around, or if you want me to talk about that aren't always necessarily food related or Mediterranean diet related, just let me know in the comments and I can bring that topic up. Or you can go to my website, donnadroza.com, and I have two websites, donnadroza.com and mostly-mediterranean.com. And mostly-mediterranean.com is where I do all my recipes. But donnadroza.com is all about the lifestyle, the Mediterranean lifestyle. It's all about living La Dolce Vita in whatever way that means to you. And there are lots of articles on there about just living and how to live a happy life and how to live. La Dolce Vita means the sweet life, and how to bring the sweet life to your life. And I feel like I've been talking really fast. So if you want to, Amy says, hi. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for joining me live. I wanted to mention, because I have those two websites, they both have individual newsletters. So if you want to hear more from me, on the donnadroza.com website, when you go there, there's a place where you can sign up for the newsletter. And I send that out once a week on Wednesdays. And if you go to mostly-mediterranean.com, you'll also see a place to sign up for that newsletter. And that goes out twice a month, the 1st and the 15th of the month. And that's about recipes and the Mediterranean diet in particular. The lifestyle stuff is on Donna DeRosa. And one of the most popular, I wrote an article on donnadroza.com, and I'll put the link to it in the description below. But I wrote an article, 10 Ways to Live La Dolce Vita, and it was a little quick rundown of things that weren't really food related at all. But it was about just living the sweet life and having this happy, sweet way of living. And it's become really popular. It's one of the most popular articles on my website now. So I know that people are interested in more than just food. Because if you all you think about the Mediterranean diet is food, you're just going to be obsessed with food. And it's not about that. It's about living. It's about living well. The concept of La Dolce Vita came from the film, the Federico Fellini film, La Dolce Vita. And it came about, like I'm not Italian, I'm Italian American. My grandparents were from Italy and they came over in the early 20th century. They probably never uttered the words La Dolce Vita in their lives, even though they're Italian. Because it's this concept that came popular much later. After World War II, when Italy was rebuilding itself, World War II was devastating for a lot of countries in Europe. People died all around the world, but it was fought on their land. And, they got bombed and they really were going through hard times right after the war. And they just tried to have this, they tried to come back with a vengeance. They had a rage to live. Did you see the new Pinocchio film? No, I haven't yet. If you have, let me know how it is. But Pinocchio is an Italian story, Geppetto. Like I said, in Italy after the war, they had this rage to live, and they came up with the movie La Dolce Vita is about these people trying to party, and they're trying to be more glamorous and things. And there's a dark side of La Dolce Vita as well. But they just wanted to crawl out of the horrors of war and get back to living their lives. And that's where the whole concept of La Dolce Vita came from, the sweet life. And I think because we're just coming out of a pandemic ourselves, and it does not compare. Pandemic, I mean, I know that millions of people died around the world with the pandemic, but it's not the travesties of war. But still, it was a really major event that happened in our lifetimes. It probably only happens once a century, maybe not even that often. That we're climbing out of this. A lot of people lost their jobs and they were on hard times and they were living in reduced circumstances, and we couldn't get all the food that we wanted, and we couldn't even get toilet paper. Now that everything has opened up again, I want you to embrace life again and get back out there. Because I know that I kind of got a little depressed, put on some weight. I was stuck in the house. We all were, some people lost their jobs and things are opening up again. And just try to think of getting back to living with a rage to live. And an easy way and a beautiful way to do that is to follow the Mediterranean lifestyle. And all of a sudden I got really serious. So I'm sorry. But I just saw Amy wrote me a long comment. Let's see it. Talking about Pinocchio, it's a really beautiful, the animation is breathtaking. I like the stop motion. Also, it's setting in World War II, and it definitely takes a story with a breath of fresh air. Oh, that's great. I can't wait to watch that. I'm going to look for it. Thank you for the recommendation, Amy, and thank you for joining me live. I think that is all I have to say today, unless anybody has any questions or comments. It's nice to see people on here. So if anybody has anything else, oh good, and Pinocchio is on Netflix. That's great, because I have Netflix. I'm going to look for that next. I've been looking for something new to watch. So thank you, Amy, for that recommendation. I can't wait to see it. And thank you, everyone. And we've been on here for a long time, so I'm going to let you go. I will see you next time, and join me next week. And on Friday, there will be a recipe video for you. Bye.